G'day, you mob. Welcome to this episode of Aussie English, the number one place for anyone and everyone wanting to learn Australian English. So I'm your host, Pete, and this is going to be another Q&A class session episode, whatever you want to call it. So remember, with these episodes, there are no transcripts. Just treat this as a listening comprehension episode, but for all the other episodes on the podcast, there are transcripts for the episode, so you can read and listen at the same time. And if you want to get access to those, go to aussieenglish.com.au/podcast, and you'll be able to sign up for the premium podcast membership. Okay, so let's get into these questions. We've got quite a few here, and I'll try and find some good ones. So, okay, genuine question. This is an interesting one. This one comes from Annie Graham. Do you have hair products for bald head care? As a girl, I was always curious about that. So when you say you, Annie, I'm not sure if you mean me personally or other men who are going bald in general. And head care, I don't know if you mean like being bald and needing creams to take care of your bald head, or you mean like products for avoiding becoming bald. There are definitely medications that people can take. And in fact, there's probably a bunch of people listening to this podcast right now, maybe men and women, taking a drug called Propecia, which is to prevent hair loss. When I was probably, I would have been early 20s and I realized my hair was falling out. I tried to get dreadlocks. So this was, it would have been 2007, 2008, around that period. I had a friend who had dreadlocks and I was like, can you give me dreadlocks like you've got? And we tried doing it. I had relatively sort of long hair, it was down to my shoulders. And he could do everywhere except for my fringe. And that was when I sort of started realizing, oh, okay, that's funny. I must be losing my hair. And so I got on the drug Propecia for a while, but it's just so expensive. It's several dollars per pill and you have to take one a day for the rest of your life. Otherwise, your hair starts falling out again. So I was just like, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to shave my head and accept my lot in life as a bald man. So I ended up doing that. Hair care wise, like as in if you need creams or anything, the main thing is you just have to be good at shaving it and doing it so that you don't scratch yourself, right? Because you obviously can't see your head whilst you shave. I just do it in the shower. I use a razor blade, the same one you would use on your face. And I just shave my head at the same time that I shave my neck and, other parts of my face. Obviously, you've got to use, good shaving cream or else you can end up with a rash and all that sort of stuff, and you need to moisturize after it. But besides that, no, not typically. The only other thing that I think women probably find pretty weird is that when you're out and about and you've got a bald head, if you're not wearing a hat, you need to put sunscreen all over your head, right? I always find it bizarre that women find that strange, or peculiar. I'm like, well, it's skin exposed to the sun. You don't have hair on your head, so it's going to get sunburnt, right? So you need to put sunscreen on it. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question. But besides that, the other thing you guys probably won't have as women generally is beard hair care. So there is a whole line of products like shampoos and conditioners and waxes and everything like that you can put in your facial hair when it gets to a certain length. I assume most women never have the pleasure of using. All right, this one comes from Ra Wolf. Where are you from? So I'm from Australia, if you've guessed it. I am from a state called Victoria. I grew up in a town called Ocean Grove and went to school in Ocean Grove, primary school there, high school in Geelong, and then I went to university at Melbourne University and did my postgraduate degrees at the university and Museum Victoria. And then when I got together with my now wife, Kel, we moved to Canberra. And then after a year or so there, we moved back to the Bellarine Peninsula, where I'm living now. So pretty close to where I grew up, to be honest, like 10 minutes away. That's where I'm from. I would love to live in some other places. I would definitely love to go overseas, if we had unlimited resources. And it's a bit harder now that we have kids, but I would love to live in places like France, Brazil. There's places in Southeast Asia I'd love to go to and live for a significant amount of time, though I think my wife, she doesn't like the hot weather as much, so I don't think I'll be able to convince her to move to Thailand or Vietnam or anything like that anytime soon, even Brazil. But yeah, oh man, I'd love to go to Japan. Um, yeah, places all over Europe. There's some places in the Middle East that'd be interesting. South America too, you know. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. How can I study English with you in Melbourne offline? Do you have any classes? So this is from Hot Above. No, at the moment I don't have any like in-person classes in Melbourne. I do have private lessons online, and if you guys want private lessons with me, I'm taking on some new students at the moment. So just shoot me an email or send me a message on Instagram, and we can try and organize some private lessons. But yeah, I really enjoy them. I started doing them again a few months back because I just sort of missed the one-on-one connection with students and being a bit more social and helping students achieve their goals. So yeah, if you want private lessons with me via Zoom, send me a message on Instagram or send me an email. The email is pete@aussieenglish.com.au. All right, another one. So this one comes from Kimia. Why do Australians sometimes say ring instead of call when talking about the phone? So this is a generational thing. I think when I was a kid, there were still phones that had bells inside of them that would ring when people rang the phone, right? And so I guess as a result of that, we use the verb to ring someone to mean to cause your phone to ring, if that makes sense. And it's also why we have like the hang up and pick up phrasal verbs, right? We don't really hang anything up anymore, but back in the day, phones used to be hung on the wall. And so the part that you would pull off so that you could listen in your ear, it would be hanging on the wall, right? And that you would talk into, it would be hanging on the wall. So you would pick it up off the wall and put it up to your ear and your face so that you could talk into it. And when you were done, you would hang it up again. So we still use those phrasal verbs even though the technology has changed since then. And we obviously all carry mobile phones now. It's pretty rare now to see anyone with a phone at home, I think, right? Like a landline, we would call them, where they're like plugged into the wall. That's pretty rare. I think it's just sort of died out because everyone's got a mobile phone these days. But it's a beautiful thing, right? There's a lot of that sort of archaic language or words or vocab, I think, that hang around in languages long after technology or aspects of culture have changed, and they don't necessarily literally make any sense anymore. And you'll have to let me know if there is that sort of thing in your language, right? Send me a message on Instagram or send me an email and tell me, do you use those sorts of vocab for talking about the phone where they don't make sense anymore? Because the phone, it doesn't really ring anymore. It plays a song or it plays a tune, but it's not ringing like there's a bell inside the phone that rings. And so, yeah, is it interesting when you use your language, especially with different generations? Because I guess that's a generational thing too. People who are my age and above will probably say ring and call interchangeably, and they'll say pick up and hang up. But children or younger, what is it, Gen X now? Or no, was it Gen Z? They would probably think it was weird saying those sorts of things because they've never been around phones that have been like that or behaved that way, And I still remember rotary phones, right? They would have that dial, and this is where you would say, "I'll dial someone's number." Again, you can dial someone's number on your phone today, but you're not literally using a dial anymore, like a circular device that you turn. You used to have rings in this device. It was all the different numbers from 0 to 9, and you would put your finger in the number that you wanted to dial and turn the ring from clockwise, right, from left to right, and you would have to do each one, and it would make this really interesting noise every time because you would take it to one side and then it would slowly come back to the normal position again, and you would have to do it again. So it was a full process. It used to take 30 seconds to dial someone's number, but it doesn't make any sense anymore, right? So anyway, yeah, it's really interesting. And you can also tell the difference between different generations by asking how you pick up the phone or how you hold a phone. And you'll notice that a lot of the older generations will make a hand signal like their thumb is out and their little finger is out, as if the 3 middle fingers in their hand is wrapped around the phone and the little finger's pointed at the mouth and the thumb is pointed to the ear. Whereas the younger generation will do it more like they're holding four fingers and their thumb out, like they're pinching something, four fingers on one side, the thumb on the other side, and then holding the phone to their ear like that. And that feels very awkward to me when thinking about that's, if someone said, are you answering the phone? How would you do it with your hand? I would definitely do it with my thumb up and my pinky out. But I think most Generation Z people under the age of 20 would probably be like, why would you do that? So anyway, bit of a tangent, but yes, you can use both though. You can say ring someone, call someone, dial someone up. You can use any of these. Okay. This one comes from Cebus. Just arrived in Nam. Any tip to make friends here, like a bar, festival, or other activity? And he's used... Is Nam... I always forget where this is. Nam, Australian Indigenous name. Is it Melbourne? Yeah, it's Melbourne. Okay. All right. So using the Indigenous name for Melbourne. I always forget. So if you've come from overseas, you've just gotten here and you want to meet people, one of the things I would suggest you do, especially if you're in a phase of learning English and spending a lot of time studying English, would be to go to the language meetups. And I will quickly check on my computer here, but there were a whole bunch of different language meetups when I was living in Melbourne about 7 years ago. So let's type in language meetups, Melbourne. These tend to be free meetups that you can go to, and you get to just hang out with people and talk, in English. You can talk in your native language. You can meet people. You can get something to eat, something to drink. They're usually free because they're organized by groups at a certain venue. And the idea is that the organization is bringing in 100, 200 people to this venue. And the venue is obviously going to sell drinks and food to them. And that's why it's free. So you'll come, you'll get stickers of the different countries or languages, representing the languages you speak. You can put them on your chest and then you can walk around and just mingle with the different people. So it looks like Mundo Lingo. That was one I used to go to all the time. It looks like that's still up. At least on Meetup, it's up. Another one called Linguas. That one's up as well. Language Exchange in Melbourne is another one. And I think New to Melbourne as well, or New in Melbourne. So check out meetup.com as well as Facebook groups. Maybe groups or pages, but there's definitely going to be different language meetup groups, and they're great places to go. You'll be able to obviously meet people from your home country, generally, but you'll also get to meet Australians or other international students and other international, migrants and everything from all over the place who are also learning Australian English. So yeah, I went to those events a whole heap and made a whole bunch of friends that I still chat to today. Okay, this one comes from Millingu. Hey man, tell us some worth watching Aussie TV series. Now, I'm a bit out of the loop, so I always end up suggesting older shows to you guys. But let's do, again, a Google search here. Top Australian TV shows for 2024 and see what comes up. Okay, so there's a whole bunch. High Country is one. I've heard that's good. Boy Swallows Universe is another one that's apparently good. Population 11, Prosper, Fake, Last Days of the Space Age. There's a whole bunch here. So really what I would suggest is doing a Google search for Australian TV shows. Try and find something on obviously Netflix or any other streaming platform that you have a membership with. You can also check out iView. ABC iView, that's free if you're in Australia, so make an account. If you're overseas, use a VPN. I think you can use a VPN. Tell iView that you're in Australia, so set your location to Australia, and then you should be able to set up a free account on iView and on SBS SBS On Demand. Both of those, ABC iView and SBS On Demand, are really good because they're Australian. They're funded by the Australian government. I think SBS is too. And there's just loads of TV shows, both Australian and international, on there. And they come with subtitles generally as well. But yeah, I would suggest doing that. And I have these kinds of chats with my students in my private lessons all the time when they tell me, give me something to watch. I quite often do, but they end up not liking it as much as something else that they find. So my tip is usually try and go and, do the work, go and do some searching, find out what's popular on these platforms, find out what's got high ratings, and look into stuff that you're interested in. Like, are you interested in comedy, drama, horror, thriller, action, crime, all that sort of stuff? Work out what you're already interested in and then try and find an Australian TV show that is in that same stream of interest, because that's going to be a lot more useful for you. You're probably going to watch it a lot more if it's something you're already passionate about or interested in than if it's something I give you a suggestion for. But if you did want a suggestion from me, a good show to check out that I grew up watching as a kid is one called Round the Twist. Round the Twist. Round the Twist. This one it's good because it's sort of like a comedy. It's funny. The stories are kind of wacky, a little bit supernatural. Like weird stuff happens to this family that live in a lighthouse down here on the coast of Victoria. Sort of supernatural stuff is always happening. In some episodes, there's ghosts. In other episodes, there's like foxes that come back from the dead. It's kind of like a kids show, PG rated, but there's loads of kind of dialogue, informal English, and you get to see loads of Australia, the coastline down here in Victoria. So that's a really good one. I love that show. I think you can find the entire first season on YouTube for free, if I'm not mistaken. Let me have a look. So, Round the Twist on YouTube. I reckon the whole season's up there. There's definitely episodes. I think all the episodes are up, to be honest. So if you do a search for Twisted Lunchbox, Australia's best kids TV, it looks like there's a whole bunch of episodes up there for free. Yep, season 1 is up on there as well. So you can get up on YouTube and watch it no matter where you are in the world as well. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Start there. Movies-wise, what would I suggest? Oh man, there's so many. Chopper, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, The Nugget, The Castle, The Dish, that's a good one. Oh man, Kenny is a good one. There's a whole bunch. But again, really what you want to do when looking for TV shows or movies to watch is find something that you're already interested in, that seems interesting to you, and then use it as material to study Australia, Australian English, our culture, everything like that. That's what's really going to help you level up your English quickly and in the most enjoyable way possible, right? Don't watch it because someone else tells you you must watch it, especially if you're not into it. If you think it's boring, find something that's not boring, right? You want to obviously be able to study your English whilst also enjoying yourself, if that makes sense. All right, this one comes from Daneshkar. Gas bagging. What does it mean? So to gas bag. If you gas bag with someone, I guess the idea is that you're sort of talking with them incessantly. You're talking a lot. It can be about nothing important as well. So like I might go to a cafe and there's some old ladies in the corner and they're gas bagging. The idea being that they're just sort of chatting away together. They're rabbiting on together. They're having a chin wag. They're having a yarn. They're talking away. They're, having a gas bag. I guess you could use it as a noun, but you can also say it as a verb. They're gas bagging. So that's a really good, what would you call that? It's like a phrasal verb, I guess, to some degree. Like it's a phrase that's a verb, to gas bag. But yeah, it's interesting. I wonder where you heard that, mate. Obviously Australians, but was it on a TV show? Was that someone telling you off for gas bagging too much? It's typically just a synonym for talking. Okay. Snooker Snaps asks, why do most Australians say she'll be all right? Why is it always she, not he? It's an interesting one. I don't know what the specific reason would be besides it's often used by men. It probably started with men, referring to objects, usually machinery. You could also use it for animals. And I guess they just saw it as an informal kind of affectionate thing to talk about your car or your truck or something as a female, right? This is my truck and she is really Great. I love her. You know, she's a great truck. It's something that we do in English. I don't think it's unique to Australia, like the whole using the female, what is it, second person pronoun to talk about objects, like cars, like vehicles, especially if it's a male related sort of field, you know, like rev heads, people really into cars. Obviously, there's women who like cars as well, but by and large, it's a male kind of dominated interest. And so I think a lot of men, have just decided. I don't know if there was a meeting where they all got together, but for one reason or another, we decided we would call these things when we're talking about them in the second person or third person, we would use the female pronoun informally. And I think it just turned into this thing where a lot of kind of informal Australian speakers will say things like, instead of it'll be all right, it'll be okay, it'll be apples, we use she instead. She'll be right, she'll be okay, she'll be apples. So yeah, just get used to it. There's probably no real rhyme or reason to it. There's no logical reason that it's she over he. It's just people started doing it, other people heard it, thought it sounded good, they start doing it, and it ends up spreading throughout the language. Okay. Judy. Hey Pete, what does this mean? I stuck up myself there? Interesting. I think you might mean I stuck up for myself. So if you stick up for yourself, to stick up for someone is to defend them. So if someone's giving you a hard time, someone's being mean to you, if someone's teasing you, if they're bullying you, and you say to them, nah, screw you, buddy, don't talk to me like that. You don't have the right to talk to me like that. You shouldn't bully me. Like, no, don't you? Don't you dare do that, right? Don't you dare. That's sticking up for yourself, right? It's a good phrasal verb to stick up for someone, to stick up for yourself. Stick up for the little guy, right? Stick up for those who need your defense, to stick up for someone. Okay, Andre Luis Gregorio, I assume you're Brazilian, mate. Mate is a word used to refer only to men. This is an interesting topic. People will often say in Australia, yes, and I think I was one of them back in the day, where I would say, just use mate on men. But the older I get, and the more that I encounter younger women now as being an older guy, I use mate on them, and it's kind of, I think if you sort of socially analyze why I do this, I think men would typically use mate on women they're not interested in, right? Who they just see as friends. They're almost treating them almost like blokes, right? In the way that they talk to them. So it's a very obvious thing that you are not romantically interested in this person. It kind of sends that signal. So I think, again, I'm only able to speak from my perspective, but I've heard older men do this to women, to younger women, and I think, at least for me, it's one of these things of being like, don't worry, I'm not a creepy old guy. I'm not interested in you. I don't care. I'm just being friendly, and I'm just going to refer to you as mate. I'm going to be informal. I'm not. I don't care. So I think it just becomes this thing that men typically use on everyone the older they get, if they're the informal type of, male. But women use it as well. I hear women using it all the time on other women. They use it on men as well. And it sends the opposite signal. The same signal, but the opposite direction. If I was single and I wanted to date some woman that I knew, or a girl that I knew, and she started calling me mate, it would send me signals. It would send me the vibe that she's not interested romantically at all. She's distancing me. She's showing that she only sees me as a friend. It's that there is a signal there beneath using the word mate that sends that kind of, it sends that signal across both directions. So yeah, I think I've said it a few times to my wife, and she'll be like, "Don't you dare call me mate." So yeah, but if you have Australians, ask them. If you know some Aussies and you hear them saying mate, ask them, do you use this on men and women together the same way? Do you only use it on one gender? Do you use it on just women? Do you use it on just men? When do you use it? When do you not use it? I probably would avoid using it on older women. It really depends though, because if you've got like an older woman that you're talking to, say working at a cafe or a restaurant, and she's just really informal, she's calling me love or dal, oh, here you go, doll. Here's your coffee, blah, blah, blah. And she's just one of those sort of real Aussie kind of, what would you say, like ochre type older women that I probably would use mate a little more because they're used to hearing that kind of informal blokey language. But if it was someone who was like really posh, looked a bit uptight, had a posh kind of accent, was like, oh, hello, do you know the directions to so-and-so's house or whatever, I would probably not say mate to her because I'd be like, she may be offended. If I called her mate, she might be like, what? Don't you use that language on me? So it's an interesting topic. Okay, let's keep going. All right. This one comes from Kayan Campos. Have you ever considered living in Brazil? If so, which city would you choose? Good question. So, yes, I have considered living in Brazil. City-wise, I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm totally ignorant to what it's like to live in Brazil. And my wife, as well as all my other Brazilian friends, are always telling me that it's dangerous as hell if you don't know socially how to behave, what to do in public, where to go, where not to go. The signals that I think Brazilians are just really highly attuned to, obviously, their environment and certain signals that get sent. If they see someone wearing a biker's helmet in public, my wife would crap herself. She'd be like, I'm about to get robbed. If someone, walks into a store or something with that on. I mean, it's a bit weird if it were to happen in Australia, but if someone walked into a cafe or something wearing a motorcycle helmet, my first instinct wouldn't be, oh God, I'm about to get robbed, So it is one of these things where that gives me pause. That makes me second guess whether or not I would want to live there, especially now with young kids, because it's it's one of these weird things. You chat to Brazilians, and it's almost like they have this weird, perverse kind of pride in how dangerous their country is in regards to people. It's almost like the same with Australians and the dangerous animals here in Australia, and I don't know how much it's overplayed. Because obviously in Australia, we've got loads of dangerous animals, but really they're not that bad, right? Like if you're not being an idiot running around in the bush, shoving your hands in holes where you can't see what's in there, or, swimming in croc-infested water, you're unlikely to be injured or hurt or killed by any of these animals, right? But it's something that most Australians are aware of and know how to behave in certain areas. So I never know if it's the same thing in Brazil where there's loads of crime and there is murders and all that sort of stuff and people getting robbed all the time. But is it the kind of thing that, most people are susceptible to? Is it the kind of thing that if I did the wrong thing, I would almost instantly be robbed, like they make it sound? Or is it really just overplayed because it's kind of sensational and Brazilians love telling those stories about like, oh man, you as a gringo, if you went to Brazil, oh man, you just walk in the street and they would just see you and be like, this guy is a soft target, we're going after him, you'd be robbed straight away. Because my wife does it. She'll be like, Pete, you would be robbed so fast in Brazil because you just have no idea. You'd have your phone out, you'd be carrying your laptop in public, you'd do all this dumb shit that people would just be like, this guy's an idiot and we're going to rob him. And then if I say to her, like, well, she'll be like, let's go to Brazil. And I'll be like, man, I'm scared. I don't want to get robbed. She'll be like, how dare you? How dare you say that about my country? And I'll be like, you're sending me weird signals here, man. Like, what do you want me to believe? On one hand, you guys tell me all these scary stories. Oh, I know someone who's been robbed. I know someone who's seen someone else get shot. And then when I'm like, well, that's scary, I don't want to go there, they'll be like, how dare you? It's beautiful. It would never happen. Blah. So I don't know. City-wise, there's loads of places I would love to visit. If it was just me going there with my wife or something and I didn't have to worry about my kids and I had, my wife and her friends and everything to guide me around and prevent me from doing stupid shit in public that would get me in trouble, I'd love to go to Rio. I'd love to go to Sao Paulo. I'd love to go to, oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. Is it Porto Alegre, no Sul, in the south? I'd love to go there. Obviously, sorry, I just switched into Portuguese. Obviously, I would love to go to Maranhão, where my wife is from, São Luís. I'd love to go there. I'd love to go to the Amazon rainforest. So, it was probably half the Brazilian states have the Amazon in it. I would love to go to any of those states where you could go and see a lot of the nature, right? And just, get an idea of what it's like. I would love to see the indigenous tribes and get to see how they still interact with nature. And is it Pantanal? Is it what are the things called that are like, is it Pantanal, right? It's them, right? Pantanal? It's the wildlife hotspots where there's like jaguars that eat crocodiles or caiman and that sort of stuff. I would love to go to those areas, right? They have this really unique ecosystem called Pantanal in Brazil, which would just be spectacular to go to. You guys have so much to go and see and do and everything, but yeah, I don't know. One day we'll make it happen. It's just the problem with Brazil is that it's just so far from Australia. It's such a pain in the ass to get to, and I'm sure loads of you guys listening to this have experienced this, know this, or are anticipating this if you haven't come here yet. It's a long way, and it requires multiple flights, and the flights are expensive, and my wife only really gets like 2 weeks off work a year, and it's kind of hard to justify flying all the way to Brazil for a fortnight, right? And being like, you're probably only just getting over jet lag before you have to go home. So, yes. All right. What else have we got? AJ asks, how can I understand Australian English? Well, mate, if you are listening to this podcast, that is a big first step. But really, it just comes down to exposure. If you watch TV shows, listen to podcasts, read books, if you're in Australia and you get to chat with Aussies, if you have Australian friends overseas, it's just about exposure. It's just getting that exposure. There's no shortcut to it. You just have to experience as much Australian English as possible. Listen to it, watch it on TV, read it, everything like that. So yeah, I would just say dive in, and it comes with time. It's not super easy to begin with, especially if you've only ever learnt American English or British English, and suddenly, you're learning a different dialect, different accents, loads of different slang, everything like that. It can be hard. So just don't get disheartened. Keep at it, and with time, the more you do, the better you're going to get. So I hope that helps, mate. But yeah, obviously keep listening to this podcast. Check out my courses and other memberships and everything like that. Get on iView, SBS On Demand. Do a search for TV shows and films on there. That's free, and look for other Australian podcasts that interest you too. Okay, next one. What do you think? Could I find a job in Australia as a trip and event organizer? Yeah, 100%. Those jobs are all over the place. I think the trick would probably be to start working for a company that organizes trips or events, and then working your way up to the organizer position. And I'm sure, in hospitality or in tourism, there'd be loads of jobs where you would not need any experience at all to get a job working in, trip or event organization or management or running those things. It's just a matter of starting, diving in, showing your manager or the people above that, own or organize the business that you're capable, passionate, and that they can trust you. And you'll probably end up getting into a position where you are organizing trips and events. The biggest thing is just getting into one of these places to work, I think, and getting some experience, and you'd be off to the races. Okay. Whoa, okay, this one's in French. Let's see if I can translate it. So this is from Mina Darabi. Salut, Peter. I haven't done French in so long. So she said, "Hi, Pete. I would love to hear you speak in French. Can you speak French?" Okay. So I'll see if I can read this. It's been a while. Salut, Peter. J'aimerais t'entendre parler en français. Est-ce que tu peux le faire? There you go. That's the best French accent I can do. I haven't spoken it in years, unfortunately. And it's been an interesting thing to kind of watch. You'll notice if you listen to the early episodes on this podcast, I was learning French really, really voraciously at the time. And I think I got to, a fluent level. I could converse with people who didn't speak English. I could, carry conversations about all sorts of stuff in French. But it's been interesting watching it kind of fade away as I started picking up Portuguese, as I moved away from Melbourne, and I, didn't get to see my French-speaking friends very often anymore. And I just haven't really used it. I haven't been watching French TV shows. I haven't been reading anything in French for the last few years. So I think I quite often still sort of understand most of what I'm listening to or hearing, but it is interesting how quickly it goes. In a matter of years, I feel like I would have to now spend 6 months, probably a year, to get it back to what it was only several years ago. So it is one of these things like fitness. You have to keep working on it constantly to maintain it. But yeah, j'ai appris le français à l'école. I learnt French at school, and I loved it. I love French. It's a beautiful language. Next one. Okay, the reason you are doing this, like introducing Aussie English, I'm not sure what the question is there, mate. Why am I doing Aussie English? I guess it's, the main thing is it's my job. I earn a living off this, but I also get to help so many people learn about Australia, learn Australian English, and improve their lives and experiences down under in Australia. That was the biggest reason. So I started Aussie English in like 2015 when I was doing my doctorate, my PhD. I was doing this in evolutionary genetics biology at University of Melbourne. And it was something, I mean, you guys will probably know the story if you're long-time listeners. As I said, I was learning French at the time. I had a lot of French friends French-speaking friends, not necessarily from France. And they were asking me about Australian English. They were like, how do you learn Australian English? What podcasts are here and everything? Because I was always telling them, here are the podcasts I listen to in French. This is what I'm doing to learn French. What are you doing to learn Australian English? And they would say, there's no resources out there. And so I ended up creating one, and it kind of took off, over time. And it was just so much more satisfying helping people learn Australian English, and always getting messages from people saying thank you and that they like the episodes, and, it was helping a lot and everything like that, compared to doing science, being in a lab, doing genetics, and interacting with a lot of other academics at the time and scientists. I think a lot of you guys might, know what it's like working in academia or around people at university and everything, but quite often they're kind of solitary. They're hard to kind of make friends with, and it's a bit cutthroat. It's a bit everyone out for themselves when it comes to science, because you have to apply for grants, you have to get money to be able to do the research you want to do, you have to try and get published in journals. It's very competitive, and it just wasn't really fun, to be honest. It was intellectually, it was stimulating. Like, it was fun to learn about the animals and to learn about science and to be doing science, but by and large, a lot of the people were very unpleasant to work with or be around, and so that was sort of my main reason, at least, for just ditching that and I was doing Aussie English like crazy at the time, and it took off, and I just preferred it a lot more. So that's why I decided to do Aussie English. What do Aussies do on Christmas Day? We are coming to Australia this Christmas. So this is obviously a very broad question, especially considering so many Australians aren't necessarily the same race or ethnicity as I am, right? So like I'm a WASP. What is it again? Like a wealthy? No, is it wealthy? God, I forgot what does it stand for? Jesus, forgotten. WASP. Let's see. Australian. How have I forgotten? This is like Protestant. Protestant. What is it? Is it white Anglo-Saxon Protestant? There you go. Jesus. All right, white Anglo. So I'm like a white Western European in terms of Australia, right? And my heritage. So I'm obviously going to celebrate Christmas a little differently. We've got all sorts of races, all sorts of ethnicities, all sorts of different languages in Australia. There's Indigenous people here. And if people don't broadly come from like a Christian kind of heritage, even if like myself, you're not really, you're not Christian at all anymore, it's become just like what would you say, like a cultural event that takes place. But there are loads of other people who do different things. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt. But me, typically on Christmas Day, it starts on Christmas Eve, right? So we'll put our presents under a Christmas tree, whether it's real or a fake one. We will wrap the gifts for the kids and other family members. We will put out the food for Santa and his reindeer to come and, consume on their way. And we sort of hang out with the kids and then all go to bed. And in the morning we wake up, the kids will open their presents, we hang out with them. And then we typically have some kind of a family event. There'll probably be one or more events, depending on how big your family is, and if you're going to multiple family events. Usually there's some kind of a big lunch event. That was what I grew up doing with my grandparents. They would always have us over with their extended family, so we would have uncles and aunties and loads of cousins and even great aunts and great uncles showing up for the Christmas lunch. They would have some kind of a roast, often a lamb or a turkey roast with vegetables in there as well. Things like potato, pumpkin, broccoli, beans, and they would have desserts and all that sort of stuff as well. And it would get served up in different courses. So you would have like an entree, you'd have the main, and then you'd have a dessert. And we would also sit down, I can't remember if it was before or after. Might have been before lunch, and we would give each other all of our gifts. So there'd usually be like 20 to 30 people sitting around my grandparents' room and their lounge room. And they used to get this huge tree, and all the gifts would be in bags under there for everyone there. And just, hand them out and just hang out. Really, though, for us, it wasn't really very religious. We didn't go to church. We didn't worry about, Jesus. We didn't worry about any of that stuff. It was more an excuse to get together with family, to see family, to spend quality time with family, and just have fun, right? Get to know each other, get to hear about what everyone's been up to, get to give each other gifts, and just be thankful for everything that we have, right? Which is, the whole idea behind it, really, whether you're religious or not. So again, it's the kind of thing that if you're listening to this and you're not Christian and you still want to be involved in it, man, there's no problem at all, right? You do it. You make of Christmas what you want in Australia. It can be anything. You can celebrate it however you want. But really, I think at the end of the day, it's just about family. It's just about hanging out with family, being grateful for the people around you, for your connections, and just spending quality time together. All right. This one comes from, we might finish up here, but this one comes from Hamed. Hi, Pete. Where can I buy the best quality hats in Australia? I think Australians love hats. Man, it's going to depend what kind of hat you like. For me, I quite often go to surf shops. So if you go to a surf shop, like, places along the coastline, there could be specific brands that own the shops, like Rip Curl, Quicksilver, what are some other ones? Strapper. Those sorts of shops are going to have generally good quality but expensive hats, but they're going to be related to going to the beach, right? So if you've got like a baseball cap, you could have one of those, wide-brimmed hats, all that sort of stuff. That's the stuff I typically get. But if you're thinking about something like an Akubra hat or whatever, you probably need to go to like a camping store to get something really good quality. So there's that too. You could go to camping stores, or you would buy it online, probably direct from the hat maker themselves, if that makes sense. I can't think of what else though. To be honest, I just sort of keep my eye out for hats and buy one every couple of years. Like if one of them's getting a bit crusty or starting to fall apart or whatever, and I just, maybe my head's getting a bit bigger, I'll just keep an eye out for one. And when I see one that I like the look of, I'll buy it. But yeah, I'd probably just look online. As long as you know the size of your head, and the size of the hat you need, just go online and look for a deal. Yeah. Anyway, that's probably enough for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Remember, if you want to download the transcripts for all the other episodes except the Pete's 2 Cents episodes, which don't come with transcripts, check out the Premium Podcast membership. You can get access to this at aussieenglish.com.au/podcast. Besides that, I am your host, Pete. This is Aussie English. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Tooroo!